There was an emergency at the coal mine. Most of the miners decided to go on strike. This was very bad news for Jenkin Coal Company. This mine was a big money maker, and the company couldn't afford to shut it down, so they sent in strikebreakers. And by strikebreakers, I mean they asked Rid if they could lend a hand, which they most certainly did. Since this particular day was a slow one for us anyway, a lot of workers from other industrial sites, including the office, were assigned to the mine. Even I was asked to work there. The power grid project, by the way, was taken over by the administration after our little incident, fearing we might repeat it. They fined us a few million for the damages caused, and it was clear they didn't trust either of the maintenance teams to continue with the project, with barely anything for the maintenance department to do in the meantime. A few guys and I were sent to the coal mine. We didn't argue at all about it. We were then met by the supervisor.
Oh, thank goodness you've all come. You see, we've got a lot of miners on strike, and we're having a hard time keeping the place up. Thankfully, some of these old guys aren't involved in the strike and are here to stay. They, and myself, will teach you the ropes and get the mine running smoothly again. I thank you all for your assistance. Anyway, let's get started.
Jonah then said cheerfully, "We weren't messing around. This was a very serious situation. We went down into the mine and got to work. I was paired with Casey, Edward, Tommy, Homer, who would teach us as we went along, and Carl. I remember Carl all right. This man was absolutely stubborn. In the office, long ago when he first joined, he worked as a cleaner. He hated the job and had a very bad attitude. Even when he did something wrong, either accidental or on purpose, he'd shrug it off as if it was nothing and do it again. And even when others tried to be nice to him or even tell him what he was doing wrong in a polite way, he would just yell back at them, telling them that they weren't his boss. He gave everyone a rough time. It was almost as if he didn't want to work in red territory, because even after he became an office worker, he still wasn't happy and still acted the same way as he did as a cleaner. I have no idea how he even got promoted at all. It felt like he did nothing but sabotage the people that worked with him. Maybe the boss saw something in him that we didn't see. And when I joined the company, he was very unpleasant to mates. Well, one time I tried to reason with him politely and he screamed at me. I made sure to distance myself from him as much as possible. His attitude apparently got worse in later months. One time he started a fight with a character and almost got the man's arm torn off. It turned out he was drunk but still. Another time, he tried to steal some money from the boss's office safe and ended up getting caught by Peter. Carl then told him to fuck off, and Peter just beat the hell out of him and reported him for the incident. Police ended up arresting him, and he only served a few days in jail. You'd think he'd get fired for that, but no, he wasn't. Also, you'd think he'd use those few days to get his act together and be a better worker, but no, he didn't. The very day he came back, he yelled at Amelia so violently that she actually got traumatized, and no, I'm not exaggerating. When Tommy heard about it, he was very angry, and you can't guess what he said to him the next time they met. Now, did he learn anything this past year? No, he's still acting like a brat, especially today.
Why did they put me here?
Carl complained.
I'm too good to be working at this coal mine. I'm a college graduate, for Christ's sake. Take me back to the office.
Is he still acting like this? I asked Tommy.
Yep, still he'll never change,
He replied. Carl just wouldn't listen. All he seemed to do was complain about the smell of coal dust.
I can't stand the smell of this. It's making me sick.
You're an absolute hypocrite.
What do you mean?
Carl asked, genuinely confused.
You smoke almost every day. That shit's worse than coal dust.
Who says I smoke?
Carl asked with a look of utter annoyance.
I've seen you smoke in the bathroom that one time.
And I've also seen you smoke behind the dumpster.
Edward added.
You didn't see anything.
Yeah, we did.
Ken, you guys please shut up.
Casey yelled.
I don't care about whatever it is you guys are arguing about. I'm trying to concentrate here.
Yeah, thank you. Somebody had to say it.
Homer said.
Now is not the time for this. Guys, we have a lot of work to do today, and I don't want any distractions.
Who do you think you are? My father or something?
No, but you're just a pain in the ass that won't stop bugging us, Carl.
Homer sighed.
Did you people even listen to a word that I said? Did you even listen to a word that Casey said? Enough of this nonsense. We have work to do now. Let's get to it.
They stopped arguing for the most part. I was glad to hear that. We spent the rest of the day training, and I think we did pretty well, with the exception of Carl. At one point, he just left the mine just to talk to some of the blue guys. Apparently, he was being more friendly to them than us.
Hey, what is that? My guys!
Oh no, stay away from us.
Fred yelled.
But I respect you guys. I should be part of your company. I want to be part of the family. I've always wanted to work with you guys.
Get the fuck out of here. We know who you are. You give your own people a hard time. Your bad attitude is not welcome here.
I promise I won't act like that around you guys. I'll be on my best behavior.
No, we're not buying it. Go away.
Well, not even they want him around. Can't really say I blame them. As the day went on, Carl continued to bicker with everyone and anyone. He'd argue with people he barely knew, screaming at them for no reason somehow. He wasn't kicked out for his behavior after that, but despite him being a pain in the ass, we managed to extract a lot of coal. It was all quickly sold off. Jenkins Coal Company was absolutely grateful for our help. The strike, by the way, was still on, so some of us had to stay at the mine until it was over. Carl ended up being one of them. A week had passed, and the strike was close to being over. The day before, we found a cavern that we knew had to be filled with Australium, a highly valuable mineral that looked similar to gold. It was common in Australia, but nearly impossible to find here. And when we do find it, it immediately gets sold off to some anonymous buyer, and only said buyer for their own private use. Anyway, we soon started the day with the mission to find Australium. We could definitely smell it, though it was definitely deep underground. It would take a while before we could even find some of it. Carl, by the way, continued to whine about his day.
My arms are becoming extremely sore. I want to get out of this shithole.
Oh, here we go again, I sighed.
Carl, are you capable of not complaining for more than 5 minutes? I swear, you're like a human perpetual motion machine that spits out complaints.
You don't understand, little man. You don't know what I suffer.
Bullshit. You're so fit you can't even walk right. Maybe if you laid off the bacon cheeseburgers, you wouldn't be bitching so much.
Oh, so you're resorting to fat shaming now.
Oh, for God's sake.
Homer said, rolling his eyes.
Will you both stop? I don't want to listen to you fight anymore. Let's just get the job done. Okay, look, we have another load of ore to get out. Fetch us a dump truck so we can load it up and have the ore delivered to Barnblitz.
Yes, sir, I replied. The atmosphere down there was absolutely miserable. I was glad to be out of it, at least for a few minutes. It wasn't long before I found a dump truck at the parking lot. I got in, started it up, and drove it over to the mine. But as I got close, the weather started to turn really bad. It started to rain lightly at first, then it got heavier. There was a radio in the truck, so I used it to contact Homer. Hey, Homer, it's starting to pour out of here, I said.
Really? How hard is it raining?
Pretty hard. We may have to evacuate in case a flood comes.
I'll see for myself what's going on. Are you close to the mine entrance?
Yes, where do you want me to park?
Hold up, I'm almost there. There you are. Oh, I'm going to need you to turn the truck around and park it right outside the mine entrance. Got it.
Okay.
It's really starting to pour out here so far. No flash flood warning has been called. We should be fine.
But things were not fine, as Carl's whining would cause some additional issues.
Oh, now my shoes are getting all wet.
What did you expect? A drier place to work.
You really like to complain about editing, don't you, eh?
Sally asked.
Honestly, thought a man of your age would have a more mature attitude about things.
Fuck you.
Carl apparently snapped and began swinging his pickaxe at Casey.
Whoa, chill out, man.
I'm sick of your bullshit. You want a piece of me. Come on.
Calm down.
Fuck you. What are you going to do about it? That's right. Nothing.
He lost his mind within seconds and wasn't paying attention to anything.
Carl, drop the fucking axe, now.
Carl didn't listen. He swung the axe so much he accidentally struck a support pillar.
Whoops.
The pillar broke and the entire mine cavern started crumbling. Rocks started falling from the ceiling and dust started pouring from the entire place. It looked like a miniature avalanche was about to go off.
You idiot. Look what you've done.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
They were all in serious danger. Suddenly, the alarm started blaring through the mines.
What's happening down there?
Mine's collapsing. We need to get out of here.
The exit was now blocked, trapping most of the miners inside. There was no way for them to escape, unless they could figure out how to clear the path of rubble. Then another alarm started going off. This time, it was a flash flood warning. And now it's starting to flood, I said.
Contact the rescue team.
The miners down there were frantically trying to clear the path to the exit, but it was impossible. The rocks were too heavy for them to move, and the water from the flash flood was entering the mine at a rapid rate.
Guys, what do we do?
There's nothing we can do. The water's rising too fast.
Mario yelled.
We are going to die down here.
Gordon yelled.
Thanks a lot, Carl. Now we done have a way out.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not. Maybe if you weren't so immature, none of this would have happened.
Carl, not wanting to die, tried to dig himself out.
Carl, that's not going to work. You can't just dig your way out of this. I think you're making this even worse than it already is.
I can try. I have to try.
Meanwhile, up in the surface, a rescue team was on the way. They were going to arrive in minutes. When they arrived, they would need a clear path to the miners. They had the tools to clear most of the path, but the flood was going to make it challenging.
Do we have the transport vehicle ready?
One of the rescue team members asked.
Yep.
Okay, let's start clearing all of this rubble. We don't know how long it's going to take, but we don't have a choice right now. I'm trying as much of a clear path as possible.
Homer, you know the mine routes, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, we'll need your help navigating through these mine tunnels.
Understood.
We all worked hard for about 2 hours until we finally cleared a path. The floodwaters had reached the miners' waist, and some had already drowned. The rescue team was soon able to reach the miners and rescued them from the mine one by one. Carl wasn't a good swimmer and was struggling to reach the rescuers. Ultimately, he was the last person that needed to be rescued. However, he proved to be too heavy for the rope that the rescuers had prepared for him. They couldn't pull him to safety as it snapped under his weight.
What?
Carl screamed before he slipped back under the water.
What happened?
He broke the line, it snapped.
What? What do you mean it snapped?
He just broke the line, he's back under the water.
They had no way to pull Carl to safety.
Just leave him down there. It's his fault this whole thing happened in the first place.
Rich yelled.
No, we can't just do that.
Do we have any sturdier ropes?
We have this one.
Another rescue team member said, pulling a rope from his pack.
It might be strong enough to pull him to safety.
It's our only option.
I'll go down there and help him up.
No, it's too dangerous, I yelled. Homer took a deep breath and walked into the cavern.
Homer, you can't go down there.
Have to.
You'll die.
So we'll call if I don't go.
Homer managed to reach Carl, who was panicking.
Homer, help me. I can't swim.
Hold on to me.
Carl grabbed onto him, and the two of them started climbing out. Although the rope they used was slightly stronger than the one that had snapped, it was still too weak to support both of them, and although the rescue team worked together to hang onto the rope, they lost grip. The two of them started falling again, though Carl managed to hang on to the very end of the rope, while Homer managed to grab onto Carl's hand.
What do we do now?
It's a steep fall. Can you climb up?
I can barely hang on with one hand.
I'll try and climb these rocks. You try and climb up the rope.
I can't.
The rocks, however, were a bit slippery, and it took a while for Homer to climb up. They were both in a bad position, though. Suddenly, another rockfall happened. Though most of the rocks missed both of them, one managed to hit Homer in the head, and with the rocks becoming slippier by the minute, Homer lost his grip, and he fell until Carl just barely grabbed his hand.
I got you.
However, Homer's hands had become very slippery, and he started losing his grip again.
Help. I cannot hold on any longer.
Although Carl tried, he couldn't hold Homer's hand for very long. Homer had fallen from a great height, and he hit the water with a tremendous splash, and he was unable to swim up in time. Homer was gone. However, his sacrifice saved Carl's life. The rescue team was able to pull Carl out of the mine, and he was brought to safety.
Wait, where's Homer?
Carl said nothing. He was too ashamed and too in shock. Soon, the evacuation phase of the operation began. The miners were transported to the evacuation site, and they stayed there until the flood was gone. Once it died down, they began pumping out the water, and they were able to begin the search for bodies. They found 14 buddies. Homer was among them. Soon the administration came. They discovered that a combination of Carl's reckless behavior and the flood had claimed the lives of all 14 miners. Had the mine not collapsed due to his actions, the situation with the flood may not have been so dire. While the investigation was going on, Carl was being heavily criticized by his fellow coworkers and he was being called many names.
Their blood is on your hands, Carl,
Bert said.
Hope you rot in hell, you selfish bastard,
Harry yelled. Nobody on Rid wanted Carl to work with them ever again. The administration considered sending him to Blow, but his actions were so disastrous and he was so hated that not even Blue wanted him. His contract was immediately terminated, and he was handed over to the authorities, something the administration usually never did when it came to situations like this. We all watched it as he was taken by the police to be incarcerated. Carl was silent. You could see the guilt written on his face, but nobody seemed to care if he was remorseful or not. That was the last time we ever saw or heard of Carl. All we knew was that he would be locked up for a very, very long time. Although I never really liked him, I could at the very least respect him for admitting his guilt. In fact, it was the only time he ever did that, but with him gone, the work environment at Red became more relaxed. It still wasn't perfect though, but it was a start. There was a great sense of relief by many of us who were glad that Carl was finally gone. The mine was fortunately not too badly damaged, and it reopened just in time as the strike finally ended. That meant we volunteers no longer had to continue working at the mine, and we were reassigned to our usual duties at Red. A memorial service was held for the dead miners, and some of the Blue members actually attended along with us. They wouldn't normally do that, as those that attended gave their condolences and respect to us, knowing we tried very hard to save their lives, and agreed that Carl was a brainless idiot who we shouldn't have been forced to put up with for so long. It was one of those rare moments during this time period where both sides actually showed some level of respect for each other. Because of Carl's reckless behavior, the administration made adjustments to their behavioral guidelines. They put in place a stricter system of monitoring which would greatly reduce the amount of arrogant, idiotic people in the future like Carl. I just hoped there wouldn't be another guy like him walking around the work area and causing nothing but problems ever again.